Hi guys, welcome back to another review, and this time around I'm bringing you the TWISTURA Woodnote. This is the latest from TWISTURA. Actually, it's already been around for maybe about 3 months. The Woodnote is a single DD in the mid-tier price range. This particular unit I got from Linsoul. The price today is $179. And although I will be then doing a comparison of the Woodnote with other mid-tier IEMs, I thought I would do something maybe a little bit different and, well, not different, I've done it before with other brands, but I would do something which just focuses mainly, or exclusively rather, on all of TWISTURA's products. So I've got here two single DDs, a 1+1, and then this mid-tier single DD. This is the D minor, this is the D major, this is the Sigma, and this is the Woodnote. This is about $30, this is about $49, this is about $70, and this is $170, $180. So IEM's priced at different points of the market. But TWISTURA does have an interesting thing, which is all of the IEMs are always extremely well accessorized. This is the case for the Sigma, sorry, not the case for the Sigma, this is the case of the Sigma. These are the tips of the Sigma. It brings a little dongle deck, okay. As for the D major and the D minor, they also bring some nice tips. The D major brings a dongle deck again. It brings exchangeable nozzles on either one of them, be it the D minor or the D major, and the nozzles do change the sound. The Woodnote brings obviously the nicest case. Again, the exchangeable nozzles, plenty of tips. I'm just going to quickly just show you here. I mean, plenty of tips there, no lack of accessories. Actually, in terms of accessories, the Woodnote is probably on par with the, I would say probably the Moondrop Cadence, the most well accessorized IEM at its point. Now, $179 obviously is of course a lot of money, and of course when you are talking those values, your expectations are going to be greater, and obviously you have to start comparing it with other IEMs. As I've mentioned, I will do that comparison, and I will appreciate you guys telling me exactly which IEMs you want me to compare it with. However, there's one thing here about the Woodnote which I think is interesting, which is they have continued their house sound. They have followed on that style of sound that they like, and given it their particular twist. Once again, this time using a wood diaphragm driver, which is the reason why the Woodnote. And yes, you do notice, as I've said many times before, you do notice, especially when you start having a lot of experience, you will notice on the different drivers. So DLC, diamond-like carbon, CNT, carbon nanotechnology, beryllium, titanium, normal PET driver, LCP drivers, magnesium alloy drivers, wood diaphragm drivers. You do start picking up on the peculiarities of each particular driver and how they basically sound. It's as simple as that. I mean, it's really not much more than I can say. Obviously, the tuning then will also, let's say, be more or less forgiving, be more or less versatile, depending on what type of diaphragm you're using. If you're using, for example, let's say a titanium diaphragm, which is by nature a driver which will be very bright in the upper registers, maybe perhaps use a more conservative tuning where you don't emphasize that part of the spectrum where it is already strong. So you can reach a nice balance. On the opposite end of the scale, LCP drivers usually are heavier sounding. They have not such a good extension up top. So again, tuning should be done, or or taken into account that, and then adjusted accordingly. And here with TWISTURA, like I said, they've got their own particular style, be it the D minor, for example. D minor, yes, be it the D minor all the way through to the the Woodnote. The D minor always, and this is a common denominator in all of them. The mids are always a strong point, a point of reference. Okay. Now, with regards here to the D minor, for example, the the different tuning nozzles basically change how the upper mids behave. The bass is always a very full bass. It's probably the one that has the most bleed into the mids and into the upper mids, but it was done on purpose to be like that. So it's got a very full bass. I mean, it extends all the way to about 450 hertz. So there's a little bit of bleed, yes, but with the right music genre and with the right nozzle termination, it does sound quite entertaining. I ended up opting for the black one. Simply because I just feel it's the best. They've got two other nozzles which emphasize a little bit more the 2K and the 4.5, 4K area, maybe kind of balance out that difference between the thickness of the bass and so on. But I ended up liking and preferring that nozzle, or that black nozzle, where we have this rise of the pin again, ultimately peaking at close to 5K, and it just gives me an entertaining sound. The D major takes on that idea, and refines it. It doesn't have that same sort of bass emphasis, way more neutral, if you could call it that way. And again, different tuning nozzles conferring different styles of tuning. I opted for the one which is the red, which peaks at about 4K. And gives the most detail. So it's the complete opposite of the D minor. The D major is a significantly more detailed IM. Not that it has a lot more energy in the mids as compared to the D minor, but rather it's got less bass, and by releasing that excess bass, it just opens up the sound. So it's a phenomenal IM when it comes to mid-range presentation. So vocals and instruments sound absolutely incredible, while the D minor will probably not be in its element because of the way that it's tuned with that. We then have the Sigma, and the Sigma, I would say, changes a little bit the way the tuning they have done in the previous two models. While in these two previous models they are peaking the pin again at 4.5K, here they peak earlier. On the Sigma they peak at about 3K, and besides peaking at 3K, on that rise it has kind of a meta kink to it. Very neutral bass, phenomenal IM in terms of vocals and mids. Incredible, honestly, incredible IM. A tad lean because it doesn't have the necessary oomph from behind to kind of keep up with all that mid-range presentation and higher frequency presentation that it is capable. After all, it is only a 6mm driver and that single BA. And yes, that BA will make itself slightly known here and there with certain songs, and you notice that that little bit of that BA timbre. It's not offensive because I can understand what was the premise, so I don't consider it to be offensive. I would rather say that it's lean. So this is thick in the bass, this is lean in the bass, this is not showcasing the mids as much as it could because of that thickness. This is showcasing the mids perhaps even overly. The D major is the one that perhaps does the best compromise, although it's got a tuning which resembles more the D minor than the Sigma. Enter the D major. Enter the Woodnote. The Woodnote, we have basically three nozzles. We have a nozzle which they call the instrumental, we have a nozzle which is the standard, and we have a nozzle which they call the vocal. All of these nozzles, they have a pin again which oscillates between 2.5 and 3 kilohertz. Basically the bass levels maintain themselves always the same, and then after peaking they straight away drop and kind of are all very similar. The instrumental is nice. I just found it perhaps just a little bit excessive when compared to the standard and to the vocal, and for that reason I chose the vocal in this particular case, and I'll show you the graphs in a bit and you'll understand. And I think honestly that the vocal in the Woodnote, keeping in mind again the type of diaphragm, keeping in mind the type of tuning that they've done, I think it is the best compromise of the three nozzles, and it just sounds incredibly good. It's got this nice, very nice tonality and timbre. 100 hertz corresponds to roughly 2 kilohertz. There's some flatness below that 100 hertz point. There is energy between 2 and about 4.5 Ks in the upper mids and treble of the tuning. But that energy, because I think it's the fact that we are using a diaphragm of the material that we are using, it sounds really, really good. It sounds detailed, but it's very ever so sweet. And you know, they are obviously, I'm trying, and I'm gonna not compare with other IMs in this video, as I promised, but it immediately made me think of certain IMs that I really enjoy listening to. One of them, or one that immediately jumps to mind, is the MK12, the Tourist from IVipQ. And definitely I will be comparing it with that IEM in more detail in a future video. I just would like your feedback with regards to what other IEMs. But what I can say is that the bass here on the Woodnote is, I would probably say the bass and the mids are the star of the show here. Bass, it's clean, incisive, and has this very potent slam to it. I mean, taking in terms of overall intensity, but if I take the bass of the Woodnote and I compare it with the bass, for example, of the D major, they have basically the same level. Actually, up to about 2K, they are tuned in an almost identical manner. It's after that things change, while the Woodnote then peaks at about 2.5, 2.6Ks. The D major continues and then peaks later, but then they both also drop off, and they both have the same peak at about 8K, and then some extension past 10K. But while on the D major, when you're listening to it, you get the impression that this is definitely a vocal-centric sound, and it's very detailed, so you could almost say kind of a neutral bright. Over here, we have, I would say, a sound which is neutral warm, if that is probably a correct way of putting it. The bass is incredible. Better, I would say there's better bass here in overall quality than the bass there. And it's mainly down to the balance that's struck between the bass, the mids, and the highs, as opposed to here where that balance is shifted purposely onto the upper registers of frequency. The mids, I mean, they're both good, I'm not going to deny, but the mids here are something else. Seriously, they're organic, they're lush, they sound just the way I like listening to mid-range. So male and female vocals are incredibly detailed, they sound realistic. Instruments, be it wind instruments, be it guitars, drums, everything sounds always very true to its real or reality. There's no sense of things being overcooked, overdone, or underdone. There's no sense of things being colored, but not in a nice manner, or even when it's colored and it's pleasant to listen to. No, the overall kind of sensation that I can tell you about, that I take away from the Woodnote sound, is that there's been a very well obtained balance between how the frequency response is, how the tuning has been done, what type of diaphragm they are using, and how then the nozzles adjust slightly that balance of sound between the bass, the mids, and the highs. And with the vocal nozzle in this particular case, for me, my ears and so on, I can't fault the sound of the Woodnote. It's definitely going to be part of that group of IEMs that I really have as my favorites, where I've got things like the Origin, where I've got things like the FD15, where I've got the MK12, for example. I didn't mention the build quality, but as is the case with all of TWISTURA's products, really nice build quality, and the Woodnote is no exception. Beautiful shell, CNC machined. It looks the part, trust me, it really does look the part. Looks really premium. Some venting system there, and also there. I'm assuming that it's a little bit more elaborate than what we are actually being able to see from the actual, what's possible to see without actually opening up the IM. Cable as well, it's a nice cable, really nice cable, and I think this match of the cable with the IM has been well obtained. And look guys, that's basically it. What I can say is the Woodnote definitely deserves its place as the company's flagship IM at the moment. I don't know if they will be having other IMs. I assume so, and I'm assuming that they will try to do better, but this is definitely their best IM up to now. The $179 price point, in my opinion, is more than justified. Honestly, it is more than justified. You have enough IMs at this price point that do not offer the same sort of build quality, that do not offer the same sort of accessories, and that don't even have a similar or ability to have a similar sound. Yes, there are some, there's tough competition, without a doubt. There is tough competition, but the Woodnote, in my opinion, has done enough to deserve to be part of that group of well-tuned and well accessorized and well-built IMs, okay, in this mid-tier price point up to 200, just over $200. Anyway, guys, I'll show you now quickly the graphs, and okay, let's start here with the graphs, and I'm gonna start off first with the graph for the D minor with the nozzle that I've selected. And as you can see, yes, it's a big, bold sound. I'm not going to bother you with other nozzles, but it's a big, bold sound. Definitely what jumps to your eye's attention is the bass. And then the mids and upper mids and treble, they are nicely done. If they maybe, where their main fault is that they get maybe a little bit camouflaged by the excessive bass that are coming from behind. So this is a nice IM if you like rock. This is a nice IM if you like EDM. It's big, it's bold, it's brash. You know, it's definitely doing its thing there. This is the D major, again with the nozzle that I preferred, which is the red nozzle. And you can see that in terms of mids, upper mids, basically they're the same. A little bit more energy at between 3 and 5K roughly, but you don't really, yeah, you notice there's a little bit more energy, but it's not really here that you see the difference. The difference is in the bass. The bass of the D major, it's cleaner, it's more detailed, it's more dynamic. It's a different story. Okay, so obviously it's an IM that will be better suited for vocal stuff, vocal centric stuff, jazz, some classic music will be ideal for the D major. It's not that it's not capable of doing, you know, the bass, more bass oriented genre as well. It does, okay, but this is the focus. Now, I would say that maybe since you do have those other nozzles, maybe a retune could be done. And I mean, I think it's never going to harm it. I might actually try and do a retune with one of the other nozzles, just to see what I can do to this area here to make it a little bit more balanced out with regards to the bass. But phenomenal IM again in terms of its sound, and has its place in its price point. Okay. Okay, that's that. Just one quick thing, if you notice, they both have that same genre of tuning. Okay, now next one is the Sigma, and as you can see, the Sigma has shifted things. The Sigma now peaks earlier, a more neutral style of bass, that meta style over there slightly, and then yes, the 1+1, you notice the BA, yes, on occasions, but it's not offensive when you do notice it. It's nothing, honestly, nothing that I can say again that it's a major fault or a major issue. If anything, if they maybe had been able to use an 8mm driver, or maybe confer the 6mm driver a better tuning. One IM that comes to mind, which is kind of the complete opposite of this, is the Celeste, the Rue, which has a phenomenal 6mm driver. If they had done the tuning of the Rue in terms of bass, coupled then with the highs that we have here on the Sigma, I think we could have had a really interesting 1+1. So there goes a suggestion to TWISTURA. Have a look at the bass performance and bass tuning of the Rue, and try and emulate something maybe on a Sigma Pro. Who knows? And then finally, then the Woodnote. And the Woodnote, as I said, it's got 3 tunings. We've got the standard tuning, okay, which again resembles more the tuning of the Sigma as opposed to the tuning of the D major. Okay, so we have the standard tuning, we have the instrumental tuning or tuning nozzle, and then we have the vocal. The difference between the vocal and the instrumental, as you can see, is slightly lower energy and a little bit more of a straight down instead of continuing and then dropping. It's enough. It looks minimal. It is minimal, but it is noticeable. Okay, so I ended up using the vocal for my selection and for my listening. And honestly, I think the graph is very much self-explanatory. Nice, this matching point, you have 100 to about 2 kilohertz. Good amount of energy there, not as emphasized as you would think because of the fact that they're using a wooden diaphragm driver. This would indicate a nice big soundstage, and it is big. It is. I'm not going to deny that it is. It's big, but again, I always get the feeling that it's more of a closed venue than a bigger venue soundstage. Just put it that way. For example, Tomorrow Never Comes by Escape Deep is a song that I've been using quite extensively now lately. Because of the way it was recorded, and also the song itself, it's a good song to showcase certain characteristics of IMs, and the Woodnote does this song absolutely incredible. Escape Deep by the song is If Tomorrow Never Comes by Escape Deep. Very, very, very nice. Trust me, have a listen, you'll be impressed. Anyway guys, that's about it for the TWISTURA Woodnote. I think in its segment, as I mentioned earlier, definitely deserves a place. As always, have a listen. Go have a listen to it. See what you think of it before purchasing. Don't just take my word for it. I am an old man with deficient hearing, so don't trust me. And if you do have that opportunity, I think take that opportunity to compare it to other IMs that you might have and see how those fare. But one thing I can guarantee you, in terms of accessories, in terms of versatility of playback, in terms of what the nozzles are capable of doing and changing the overall performance of the Woodnote, TWISTURA has hit the nail on the head. This is a winner in my books. End of story. All right, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask me. Take care now. Bye bye.